Hello there YouTube, EpicViolinGuy here with your third TI Basic programming tutorial. In this tutorial we're going to be going over some user input stuff, mainly the functions prompt and input. Now to help me with this tutorial I have my little bunny rabbit friend here, Mr. WabbitMU. This is a free emulator for those of you who haven't seen my update video, or if I wasn't clear on where to get this on the update video. But you just Google WabbitMU and you can find it online. But now back to the tutorial. So if you turn on your calculator, you go to the program. Let's go ahead and make a new program and call this input, since that's what we're going to be testing and learning about today. So we have our program input, we have our program text editor screen up. So let's go ahead and press program once again and arrow over to the IO, or input output. And these first two options are our input options. Now first, let's just take a look at input. That looks like the simplest thing on there. Now we have two options for this command. We can give it a variable, or we can give it a prompt and then give it the variable. Now what both of these options do, and what both input and prompt do, is it makes it so that when you run your program and it reads this line in the program, you can input information and then press enter on your calculator, and it will take that information and store it in whatever variable you've chosen and then use it later in the program. It's just a way to make your programs more user-friendly, to make it more interactive and individualized. I'm not sure if that made any sense or not, but so our first command is input. Now our first option is just a variable like that. That's simple enough. So if we do this, and then let's just print out A just to make sure that we have it. I'm just going to go ahead and display A. Yeah, simple enough. So we exit out of this, go back to program, execute input, and we get a question mark. And this is our automatic, our default prompt, I should say, for the input command. Since we didn't specify a prompt, it went ahead and gave us a question mark. And right beside it is where we input our data. Now because A is numerical data and not a string or a graph or a picture or anything like that, we'll get into that later hopefully. Go ahead and press any number, like 1 or 15 or 157, whatever. And you press enter. Ta-da! So this doesn't look like much because we just input the number and it gets the number back again, but what actually happened was this number got stored in the variable A, and then that variable A was recalled and put back onto the screen. So we have actually just used our variable and assigned the variable in the program, which is huge for programming. Now, this isn't how it is for most programming languages, but on the calculator, that variable still holds 157, and we can see this if we hit alpha math and get A, and then press enter, and there it is. It's still in there. Now we can assign variables without the program easily. Just if we want A to be 0, just store 0 to A. And then when we recall A again, we get 0. So it's nothing too crazy, but it's really important to be able to get user input during your program. So how about another method of getting user input? So we're going to go ahead and use the same layout, just for consistency. But instead of input A, we're going to put a little bit of a prompt. I'm going to alpha lock this and put quote let's see, Enter. So enter. Enter a vowel. That seems like a good prompt, but we don't want it to be too big or else it won't fit on the screen. So enter a V-A-L, and then let's put a colon and a space. And we can go ahead and close that or not. The calculator will do that automatically if we don't. Now, here's another interesting point that I've discovered just through experience with programming, and it's that you don't want the strings to be too long or else they won't fit on the screen, and the calculator won't automatically cut off the end bits that don't fit on the screen and put them on the next line. They'll just keep on going off the screen, and you'll get a little ellipsis at the end of the phrase. And so a way that you can check that is if you're in this screen, or actually if you're in any screen, if the quotes, here, let me just show you. Yeah, like this. So if the quotes are like this, if the beginning quote is one ahead of the end quote on the next line, this is the maximum space that can fit on a single line, I believe. I hope I'm not mistaken when I say that. Yeah, so your prompt can be that many long without it spilling over onto the next line, but we're not going to do that. So we're just going to go ahead and delete a couple of these spaces. We only need one. Okay, and then after our prompt, you put a put a comma right here above the number 7 to the left of the open parenthesis, and then we put the value that we want to store it to. And we put alpha A and then display A. Easy enough. And so we exit out of that, go back to program, and execute our new program. Now enter a vowel. I'm going to say 180. Enter, and there we have it. So the same thing has happened. It's just printed out a prompt beforehand, and then it took that number, stored it to A, and then recalled A again. Now, that's just about as much as we can do with input. Now let's take a look at prompt. Here, just a second, I need to consult something. Just make sure that I'm not giving you any false information here. Just a second. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's correct. Okay. Right. So, okay, so, yeah, right. Sorry. Little tired. So our next command besides input is prompt. Now prompt does the same thing as input. It gets user input, but it does it in a different way. It actually automatically creates a prompt for us, which is nice. But when we want, let me just get out of here. When we want a specialized prompt, we can't really edit it. So it's really user friendly, but that user friendliness is always a double-edged sword. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and substitute prompt for input. So we hit program, arrow over to IO, and our second option is prompt. So we press enter, and we have prompt. Now we go ahead and delete this. And the arguments for prompt is just A. And so what this does when we execute it is this. It creates a prompt. It says A gets what? And so we say, well, how about A gets 12? And then it stores it to A, and then it recalls it again later in the program. Now, go back to this. Now this is really useful, like I said, for just making general prompts when you don't really need anything that looks fancy. But whenever you want a really good, solid looking prompt, you can't really edit the prompt with that command. So that's why I like input a little bit better. but you can use prompt if you want. Another thing that you can do with prompt is that you can list things to be assigned. Like, say you want to input 3 variables. I can say prompt A, B, C, and then I'm going to display A, then display, oops, I just hit 3, display B, and display C. Now let's see what happens when we execute this program. So we get a prompt for A. I'm going to say 5. And we get a prompt for B in the exact same pattern. So we're going to give this one 79. And we have C. I'm going to say 4. And there we are. So it stored 5 to A, 79 to B, and 4 to C, and then it recalled all 3 of them in that order. So another interesting bit is that instead of giving it numbers, I'm going to go ahead and run the program again. Instead of giving it numbers, you can actually provide it a variable. Excuse me. You can provide it a variable instead of a number, and it will take the number from that variable as its information. So for A, what if I give it B, which as of this program is 79, and for B, I give it A. Now A is not 5 anymore. Now it's B from the previous program, which is 79. Now, this is kind of confusing, but stick with it. And then for C, I'm just going to give it O. I don't think we've assigned anything to O, so O should be 0. So this should be 79, 79, 0, if I'm correct. Yes, there we are. So what it did was, for A, it took what was currently in B, which is 79 from the previous program, and it put it in A. And then for B, it took A, which just the line before had been set to 79. So now B is 79, and B is also what A is, so A is 79. And then C gets 0, and 0 hasn't been assigned, or sorry, O hasn't been assigned. And the default initialization for every variable on the calculator is 0, or every numerical, every number variable, I should say, on the calculator is initialized to 0. So that way, if you clear the calculator, if you clear everything on the calculator, all the archive, all the RAM, everything, and then you enter, say if you hit alpha 8, which is P, and then hit enter, P will be shown as having 0 in it. And that's because that's its default initialization. So I'm not checking how long this has been, but it doesn't feel like it's been that long. So I'm just gonna keep going with this. So far we have covered input and prompt and the ways that both of those can be used to provide user input for the program. So let's go ahead and make a demonstration of this, put it into an actual program, and show you what it looks like when it's all up and running. Now, I have my calculator in hand with me. You can't see that because I'm recording the screen, of course. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it. No, it looks like I deleted it. Okay, well, what I had was a program that you provide the mass of one object and the mass of another object, and then it will give you the force that is between them due to the gravitational force. And that's a good example of this. Hold on just a second. I'll skip over me finding the formula and I'll get back to you in just a second.